Heyo! How you doing? It's Rockipedia with David Miller. Howdy. It's good to see you. Or good to be seen, I guess, is how I should say that. I like it. Okay, welcome to this edition of Rockipedia. We are in the almost middle of March for 2024 and cruising right along through our life. Rockipedia is doing lots of cool stuff and it's growing all the time, and I want to thank you for that. I would love it if you help it grow some more, and here's some ways you can do that. You can participate. That's the best way to help this grow. Participate. Subscribe, hit the bell, share it with your friends. When you share it with your friends, encourage them to subscribe, because the more subscribers I get, the better things go. Okay, so if you want to help grow the show, in the description there will be a Venmo, and that's a way that you can pay what you think this thing is worth for your time and my time. If you're enjoying it and you like what the content is and you like the presentation and all those things, I would encourage you to support a little bit if you can. That would be great. Another way you can support is by visiting the sponsors that we have and also taking part in any of the activities or events that we're a part of. And you can also purchase the gear that I use to create this thing by going to the links into the description. And there's other products that we will feature every once in a while and tell you about. And if you go to those links and buy those products, there's a little bit of coin that comes back to Rockipedia with David Miller. So that's always nice. So there's some ways that you can support, but the biggest way is participation. And I want you to participate in many ways. I want you to tell me your ideas for the show. I want you to tell me topics that you think I should cover. I want you to respond to the topics I am covering and give your opinion, even if you don't agree with me. I prefer if you do, because I'm really smart. No, I'm kidding. I love all kinds of debate and conversation. And today's show, I'm going to tell you, is going to cause debate and conversation. And I will warn you right now, there will be swearing. And I will tell you exactly what I think. Okay, let's get to our new segment today. It is a new segment, and it's called You Sound Ridiculous. And today we're going to talk to our friends that hate Metallica. And I'm not just talking about people that have hated Metallica forever, because that's a choice. That's taste. That's you saying, in my opinion, Metallica has never been anything I've been into. Not talking to you, because you were never a fan. Metallica haters, or Metalli-haters I call them, are a special breed. They are the diehard Metallica fans that got into them early on and just thrived on them. Love Metallica. Man, Metallica's my band, they would have told you. And they did. Kill 'Em All came out. Yes, that's my band.
Jake ain't lying, though. We had a band powerful enough to turn goat piss into gasoline.
But there was a point where they quit feeling that way, and they didn't just quit listening to Metallica. I mean, you can't fault somebody if they decide that, maybe this band isn't for them.
What do you think, darling? Should I hate them?
Maybe they aren't doing this new release doesn't touch me in the way the other Metallica releases did. So I'm not going to listen to Metallica. Great. Go off and listen to whatever you want to listen to that's not Metallica. Nothing wrong with that. These folks don't do that. No. These folks, what they do is they stick around. And with the advent of online internet and all the communication we can do, not only do they stick around, but they stick around and they troll like crazy. The worst trolls in rock music internet activity are Metallica haters.
You have hate mail.
Second only to Metallica haters are Nickelback haters, but that's another story. And we've talked about that on the show before. But Metallica haters, and I'm not going to cut them any slack, because I think what they do is small and petty. And it's, if you have any experience in psychology or therapy, whether you've been on either side of the couch, you can see blindly a blind man on a galloping mule in the dark of night could see the psychology behind the Metallica haters. And we're going to cover that. So let's talk today about breaking down over 30 years of Metalli-hate. We got to have the background music, right? Yeah. All right, so I got into Metallica right away. I can actually tell you the story of how I got into Metallica, and it wasn't right away. That would be kind of a lie. I did not know about Metallica until Master of Puppets, which is their third album. So let's go over here. We're going to talk about stage one of Metallica, 1983 to 1988. Now, we're only talking about the history of Metallica from the time they got Kirk Hammett and released Kill 'Em All. Those of you that know the history of Metallica know that before that, Dave Mustaine was in the band from Megadeth. He went on to form Megadeth. He was originally in Metallica. He screwed up and got his ass fired before they made Kill 'Em All, and they hired Kirk Hammett. So we're jumping off at Kill 'Em All because all I'm talking about is the fan base and their reaction to the music. So we start in 1983 and Kill 'Em All comes out. I didn't know that one. It was just not in my sphere. Even my friends in Lakeview where I was at weren't really into Metallica at that point. I started hearing more about Metallica when Ride the Lightning came out. That's when they kind of got on my radar as a band that I might want to check out. So Master of Puppets comes out. I've heard a lot about it. I see that they're opening for Ozzy in the magazines because I used to read all the magazines all the time. See that they're opening for Ozzy Osbourne on that tour, thinking about how cool that show could be. And I go out with a friend of mine, and we were in his car, and he goes, "You got to hear this band." He had just come back from a trip to Seattle, I think, and he brought back the cassette of Master of Puppets. And so he throws it in his tape deck in his car, his I want to say it was a 78 Vega. And I hear Master of Puppets, the beginning of Battery. And I'm like,
"Did you hear that?"
And so immediately we devoured that cassette like 4 times that night, driving around, being hoodlums. And it was amazing. And so then I immediately went back and got Kill 'Em All, got Ride the Lightning. And since that day, I've been a diehard Metallica fan. What's funny is the Metallica haters are outnumbered like 5-1 by the Metallica lovers. So Metallica isn't hurting any by having these haters. So Metallica releases these 3 albums, and they build a fan base of knuckle-dragging, denim-wearing hair farmers called, what do they call them? Heshers. Heshers is what they created, and that's what all of us were. I was that. I may have not been dragging my knuckles quite as much, but we all were kind of at that point. Especially the hard rock fans of the 80s. I mean, if you look at the whole culture of the 80s, there was all kinds of issues in there.
You have problems.
Oh, I have problems.
But Metallica fans were a special breed of, very subjective. They didn't like anything coming out of L.A., and that's why thrash took off, and it couldn't take off in L.A. Metallica tried their hand in L.A. early on, and they went, "Yeah, this town's not working for us." And they went to San Francisco and the Bay Area, and that's where thrash took off. The audience for Metallica was vastly different than the audience for the rest of 80s hard rock and butt rock, glam rock, whatever you want to call that whole movement. The 80s hair metal, the thrash scene from the Bay Area and the East Coast even was way different. And their audience was that. Their audience was aggressive and kind of assholes, really. We were, I liked all of it. And I've always been that way with 90% of my music. I like all of it. And so I was never that guy that was just Metallica or nothing else. No, that wasn't me. And maybe that's why I'm different now than those guys, because what I found is the people that checked out when they checked out did it all for the same reason, and it had nothing to do with the music.
Jose? You don't like the music? Huh? You don't like the music? Huh?
Let's explore that, shall we? Okay, so after Master of Puppets, at the end of Master of Puppets during the tour, a tragedy occurs, and bassist Cliff Burton is killed in a bus accident in Europe. Now, this is a devastating blow to Metallica for many reasons. For one thing, Metallica had a street gang mentality. Can you dig it? When he died, it was like losing a family member. It was like losing a brother. These guys were like siblings at this point. After having 3 albums and 3 tours under their belt, they really were a gang. So Cliff's gone. Now, the healthiest thing would have been for Metallica to take a break, figure out what their next step was, find the next person, get them settled, get comfortable together, and then go forward. But Metallica didn't do that. They were young and dumb, and they had the whole world right there, and they were so afraid of losing what they had built. Master of Puppets had them on the cusp. They were going to be headlining by the end of that tour had Cliff not died. So, and they knew it. They knew where their trajectory was going, and they didn't want to lose that momentum, even though they had lost somebody so important to them. So they swallowed that down, kind of buried it in alcohol and forward momentum. They immediately went out and got a new bass player. They got Jason Newsted, who was a bass player in Flotsam and Jetsam. And much like AC/DC did when Bon Scott died, much like Ozzy did when Randy Rhoads died, the train kept rolling. And that may not have been the healthiest choice for the guys in the band. In fact, we know in hindsight it wasn't. It was a horrible choice for them, and it ended up being a horrible situation for their new bass player, Jason Newsted. Now, you'll see Jason there right next to James Hetfield. Jason's wearing the black shirt. They got him in the band. They initiated him very quickly. They quickly wrote And Justice for All, which turns out to be a fantastic album, and what a lot of people consider the last good album of Metallica. None of those people are right. They're all wrong, and I'm going to tell you why as we go through this. So at this point, they're back on top of the world. They're touring hard. They're partying hard. The album's doing well. One is like the biggest song ever and the first video Metallica ever did. They had resisted video through all 3 of their first, the first 3 albums. But when they released this, they said, let's do a really cool video for one. And man, did they succeed. Anybody who's seen that video knows it's a masterpiece. But at this time also, they were not paying attention to the fact that they needed to grieve for Cliff. They were taking all of that grief and anger about Cliff's death out on Jason. And so Jason ends up being, it's almost like the freshman in a frat house.
Just tell me, mister, what fraternity would pledge a man like you?
He's getting all the shit. He's getting initiated constantly. He's getting beat up. He's getting taken advantage of, made fun of, just not treated well. Not treated like a family member, not treated like a band member, treated like someone who you don't want there and you're forced to have. But that wasn't the case. Jason was a great asset. He was a great bass player, great singer, very good business-wise, was a monster promoter. He loved that band so much, he was there, bam, 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 all the time. And they took that for granted, and they treated him poorly, and they all admit it at this point. They all say, Jason got a short shift, he got treated horribly, he should have been treated better. And they tried to correct that with future members, and we'll get to that. But they were riding high on the hog with And Justice for All, and they had a fan base. All of their fans had stuck with them through these first 4 albums. Everybody was still on board, even with Cliff's death. Although, I think the death of Cliff Burton carries forward and has a lot to do with what happens moving forward. And what happens moving forward is this album. This is the first truly divisive moment in Metallica history. When this album came out, the hardcore original, they'll tell you they're the OG true fans, but they're not, because they bailed right around here.
Image around this popsicle stand. I'm out of here!
Inner Sandman wasn't real heavy. It was the first single. Wasn't super heavy, but it got a lot of play, and people didn't scoff too much at it. And it came out before the album. Nothing Else Matters was released, I think, in conjunction with the album release, if I'm remembering correctly. This is a long time ago, and I'm a rock and roller and occasionally smoke weed, and I might not remember. But around the time the album came out, the Nothing Else Matters video came out. That single hit radio, and it was huge. Probably the biggest song off of that album by the time you get said and done. but it split the Metallica audience right down the middle. It made people freak the fuck out. And I remember it because I was very into Metallica, and I was so looking forward to the album, and I loved it. When it came out, I was like, this is cool. I like it. I hated that they overplayed some of the songs, and like Inner Sandman has now entered that realm for me, like You Shook Me All Night Long and Freebird. I could never hear them again because they're locked in this brain. I can listen to them anytime I want just by thinking them. That's how many times I heard them. So that's a little rough, but the album did so well, and I really enjoyed it. And people went, oh, it's not a Metallica album. Oh, no, what's all that? Why are they so... It's a ballad, what? And this was just the beginning of the ridiculousness that has followed and continues to this day with these Metallica fans that aren't fans. They bailed in 1991. This is art. Music is art. Art is subjective. I can look at the same picture as you, and what I think of that picture and what you think of that picture could be two totally different things from totally opposite sides of the fence. So the idea that any band or any artist or anything should remain one way or be looked at one way is ridiculous. And the Metallica fans that couldn't evolve with the band started at this point trying to pigeonhole that band to where they say this is the only time that band had any quality. And it was up until And Justice for All. And somewhere around And Justice for All, that's where the split actually started to happen. And the next phase was even worse. Because Metallica was on their 6th album, they were getting ready to do their 6th album, they had all the success. They've made all the money they could ever worry about making. So as an artist, you start to think about things and you're like, hey, I want to try some other stuff. Artists evolve. If you don't evolve, you just become repetitious, and there's no fun in that for a band. Even like AC/DC and stuff, they've had moments where they've stretched out. They don't stretch as far as, say, a Metallica. But if you think about Led Zeppelin stretched all the time. They evolved through every album, and if John Bonham hadn't died, they would have been very much like Metallica, having a lot of different stuff within the rock realm of what they did. And nobody ever talked about them selling out. Nobody ever gave them crap. Some of their albums did less than others, but that's natural. That's the ebb and flow of taste. But to say something is horrible because you don't particularly like it isn't true. It's not an accurate way to consume art and to judge art. We shouldn't be judging art at all except for how it makes us feel. Metallica happened to draw humongous stadiums night after night after night after night for 40 years. They are such a universal band. They are the biggest hard rock band to come out of America ever, probably. And closely followed by like the Foo Fighters. But even Aerosmith didn't reach the level of Metallica and didn't stay there for as long. They've had ups and downs and ups and downs. So Metallica deserve every bit of credit they get and should get a whole lot more, especially from the Metallica haters who really freaked out when this happened. Remember 96? Yeah. So Load was getting released, and this picture was released to the press and came out on MTV. I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday. And almost all the metalheads in my circle went, what the hell? And I've always been into Kiss and Alice Cooper, and I was into the new wave 80s stuff, and it didn't bother me. I didn't go, what? I thought, that's it. That's a bold choice, is what I thought. That's a bold choice because they are going to get so much shit because I already saw what was happening with the Black Album. Everybody freaked out about the image, and the music on Load got short shift. People that were not judging that music, and I don't care. You can tell me you were, and you're full of shit. You were judging that picture. And so many Metallica, like, remember how I told you about the knuckle-dragging Heshers? Yeah, it turns out they're not real open to different types of people. And so we ended up with a whole group of people who went after the masculinity of Metallica over these pictures. By the time Metallica got on tour, like after the first or second video, and it may have been because of the reaction, that look didn't stick. They weren't on tour putting on makeup before they went on stage. They were in their jeans and t-shirts like they always were. They had cooler sets. The tours for Load and Reload were frickin' fantastic. So cool. They had stages exploding and people on fire running across the stage, and played all the great songs and had great openers like Corrosion of Conformity. It was ridiculously good, and I loved it. And so many people hacked on them through this whole period. The original fans were not capable of evolving with Metallica. Metallica is evolving all the time, and they've continued to evolve from the day they got the lineup solidified with Kirk Hammett all the way forward. If you listen to it, every album is growth. Every album they add some element that they didn't have before. And every time it gets more creative, gets more interesting, has more depth. And all of that is stuff that the OGs couldn't appreciate. It wasn't that they couldn't. They refused to. They were so stuck in that hole that they refused to. And they are still there today. Metallica went through some heavy-duty drama. The not paying attention to the past caught up with them. And it made it so that they really had some internal problems getting along. And a lot of that, I think, stems, and I think you can see it in the evidence that was released, because Metallica has been an open book about their careers and their lives and how they kind of exist together in a band. And I thought that's been refreshing too. They got a lot of shit for that. By the time they got done with the Reload tour, their relationship with Jason was extremely fractured. And they were having a lot of internal problems. James and Lars weren't getting along. They put together Garage Inc., which is the one here at the bottom, which was mostly covers, and it was technically an addendum to Garage Days, which was released right around And Justice for All. The first thing Jason Newsted ever played on was called Garage Days, and it was like a 5-song EP, all covers. Well, for Garage Inc., they took that EP, they remastered it, and then they re-recorded like 10 more covers and put it out. And it's a fantastic collection. It's one of the best covers collections I think a band has ever released. And it's very, very, very cool. But it was released as a stopgap to give them time to get their shit together. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do that. Jason ends up leaving the band, and it's under pretty dramatic circumstances. He's tired of being told he can't have side projects. He's tired of not being as involved in the business decisions and the music decisions as he feels he should be. He's tired of it being James and Lars's ship, and he wants to be able to steer the rudder once in a while. And James and Lars at that point were like, fuck you. We're not doing it. You can't do it. You work for us. Even though you're a member, you work for us. And so Jason said, no, I'm not willing to continue to do that. I'm going to go do my other projects. And so he left. I think they saw some of the problems, but they didn't see the cause of the problems. So they started seeking help, which I think is probably the most adult thing I've ever seen a rock band do. And you know what those original Metallica fans did? They tore them apart for it. These guys, these grown men who grew up in the heavy metal, thrash metal phase, hard drinkers. At this point, they were drinking hard, very much. And they went out and sought help. Their career mattered enough to them. What they had built mattered enough to them, and their fans, the real fans that had stuck with them, mattered enough to them that they sought professional help. And those old school fans tore them apart. These guys wanted to figure out how to continue, how to keep the band you supposedly loved. They were your fucking band back in the day. You supposedly dug them. And they were trying to save that band for you. Trying to save themselves, but they wanted to save that band for the fans. At that point, they had all the money. They didn't need it. They love this job. They love what they do. What do? They get therapy. And then they get a new bass player in the form of a gentleman named Robert Trujillo. Now, Robert had been with Suicidal Tendencies, Infectious Grooves. He'd played with Zakk Wylde and Black Sabbath. He'd played for Ozzy Osbourne. He'd done a lot of stuff. And he's a great bass player. And so they got him. And to try to keep from having the same thing that happened with Jason happen, they brought him in as a full member and gave him $1 million just for showing up. And they have never had an internal problem since then. Robert has felt like a solid member of the band. He's been involved in every creative decision the band's done for the last 20 years. And they've released some fantastic music. Now, Saint Anger, the one there at the top with the fist, that one really tore apart the Metallica fan base. Now, the old school guys weren't going to like it no matter what at this point. They were shitting all over Metallica every chance they got. But even those of us that were solid fans and couldn't wait for every release and were excited, were disappointed. And it really wasn't Metallica's fault, other than, I think, because of the therapy and all of the drama they were going through, Bob Rock got to make decisions he shouldn't have made. And part of those decisions was the production. The drum sound is horrible. The guitars are thin and not necessarily Metallica sounding. And there are no really great guitar solos, which I think was a bad decision on the band's part myself. But there are great songs on that. And then when they play some of those songs live, they come across just as solid and just as strong as any other Metallica stuff. There were editions of that album released that had a really cool DVD with it that showed Metallica at their headquarters in San Francisco playing live through the whole album with their live sound, and it sounds fantastic. And I've heard them do several of those songs live in the tours since then, and they always come off very, very well. So that album really suffered from the production and some creative decisions, but it is not a bad album, and certainly not as bad as some of those fair weather fans decided to talk about it and make it. And during that, while they're making fun of this album and mocking this album, they're making fun of the band for seeking therapy and for the movie that came out called Some Kind of Monster. Now, making fun of that movie makes you an asshole. So many people have been helped by that movie, because there are people like you that are willing to grow. There are some of the people in your group that have evolved, and Some Kind of Monster helped them out because they saw their heroes, James, Lars, Kirk. They saw them going through something dramatic. They saw them going through therapy. They saw them embracing sobriety. They saw them trying to be stronger for their family, their friends, their band, and their fans. And you made fun of it. So everything that Metallica did around this time that you mock helped other people, did something positive. And then we move into Death Magnetic, which also had production problems. It was overdriven, distorted at times because they had the levels up so hot in the mix. It wasn't what went to tape. I bet we could have in fact, I know we could have a better mix of that because they released one. So the original Death Magnetic gets released, and it's overdriven, and people notice it, and it makes it into the press because on the internet, everybody says exactly what they think, and so people were saying, this thing sounds like shit. And it kind of did. So there is a version you can get called the Xbox mix, and it was remixed for a Xbox game or for something that I think it was one of the Guitar Heroes or something. They were doing a whole Death Magnetic package where you could do all the songs. So they had somebody remix it so it would work well within the Xbox settings, and it ended up being a better mix, and they have released that in some fashion. I don't know if it's leaks, bootlegs, somebody ripped it off the game, I don't know, but it's out there. And if you listen to it, it sounds really great. But that album is full of nothing but fantastic 8 and 9 minute Metallica epics. And all of those fans shit on it before it ever hit the stage, before it ever hit the stores, and they have never, ever given that album a chance. And that trickled into Hardwired to Self-Destruct, which is the album on the bottom there. And that one is it's a double album full of, not a double album like back in the day. This is a double album CD. This is like 25 tracks of fantastic songs. Killer music. Great production. Amazing playing. Solos. All the things that Metallica fans want. Why would you take something that gives you pleasure and chase it away? There is nothing about Metallica's career or music that warrants the opinions you're carrying. You're missing out on so much fun, so much of the band that you swore in the early days you loved and supported. You're missing out on it. There are thousands of us that are just enjoying the shit out of everything they do. This, their newest one, 72 seasons. It's awesome. It's as good as anything they've ever released. It's got strong songs. It's got great solos. It's fucking cool. And now they're doing this amazing tour where they're playing 2 nights in every city with different opening acts every night, different set lists the entire... What band does that? And you want to mock them like they aren't worthy? You're not worthy. I don't care if the Napster thing pissed you off. I didn't think the Napster thing was that great either, but I understood it. You made fun of them over Napster, and you know what that was? That was you making fun of them not wanting people to steal from them. The stuff was being stolen. Napster was the guy that did Napster was a criminal. He was stealing, and it changed everything. And now you don't get the level of entertainment and stuff that you used to get because you gave it away because you sided with Napster over Metallica. How often can you be wrong and still stick to it? You've been wrong about this band 90% of the time. If you're hating on Metallica, you're not paying attention. I'm really excited. I'm going to go see Metallica in Seattle, both shows. I'm going to see Pantera with them. I'm going to see Wolfgang Van Halen with them. It's going to be a fun time. And I understand that people have different tastes in music. And if it were about that, then this wouldn't be a show. This wouldn't have been a topic if that's what this was about. But you all know it's not. You all know that's not what this is about. The distaste for Metallica and the crap they get is strictly about image. It's about threatened masculinity. It's about not wanting to see a band do something that you don't understand. Rather than try to understand it or try to get into it or embrace it, you shunned it. This is a band you won't see doing a fake reunion tour or a fake farewell tour. You won't see this band right off into the sunset with two members still doing it. No. At some point, they will bow out gracefully and be done, like Zeppelin did. That's what they'll do. But they're not going to do it very soon. I bet we get at least 2-3 more albums out of these guys. Look at Priest. Priest just released the best album ever. One of their top albums. It's as good as anything they've ever released. And they're in their 70s and 60s doing that. Metallica are just getting close to 60. They're just cresting over into the 60s. They got another 10 years they could be doing this. More. Mick Jagger, 80 years old. 80 years old, and Mick Jagger's out there strutting it like he always did. They are one of the biggest bands that's ever graced this planet, and they're a hard rock band. People say, oh, there's no hard rock bands anymore. And yet they shun people like Metallica who have been sticking it out and delivering really consistently, if you're fair about it, really consistently while growing and maturing and evolving for 40 years almost. It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Rockipedia with David Miller. You sound ridiculous, Metallica haters. All of this is in fun. All of this is just me giving you my opinion. And I'll do these once in a while that you know this isn't the whole show. So I hope you enjoyed it today. I hope you Metallica fans are cheering me on. And I hope you Metallica haters maybe give it a second chance. If not, let me know what you think. Throw it down in the comments, please. Bring it. I know that I've just said a lot of things that might piss some of you off. I understand. And I'm fine with it. I want this back and forth. I want you to participate. And if we get a good enough back and forth going, I'll have you on. I'll put you on the show and we can debate it. I'll debate any of this stuff with you. It'd be fun. So, hit me up. Throw in a comment. Let me know what you think about Metallica haters. You can also use Rockipedia Podcast at gmail.com. We're on the socials. You can find us just about everywhere. Over there at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, do all those things. Make sure you stay posted for some information on that guitar contest I mentioned earlier. And we'll see you on the next episode of Rockipedia very, very soon. I'll have another one out probably by the end of the week. All right, my friends, have a great one. Thanks for listening to Rockipedia.
Rockipedia with David Miller is a Miller Music Media production.
Rock and country guitar enthusiasts, get ready to unleash your shredding skills at the most epic guitar competition of the year. Rockipedia with David Miller proudly presents Sunday Guitar's second annual Shred the High Desert Guitar Competition, held in conjunction with Sunday Guitar's annual Guitar Swap Meet, May 4th at the Bend Factory stores. This year we're turning up the heat of the competition with rock versus country. 6 rock guitarists will go head-to-head and 6 country guitarists will battle it out. The competition is fierce and the stakes are high, and only one guitarist from each category will emerge victorious. But wait, it doesn't end there. After the face-offs, the ultimate genre showdown, rock versus country. The grand prize is up for grabs, and it's going to be a battle of epic proportions. To be a part of this incredible event, all you need to do is email rockipediapodcast@gmail.com to register and get more information. Mark your calendars because prizes will be announced on Monday, April 1st on Rockipedia with David Miller on YouTube. Sunday Guitar's second annual Shred the High Desert, where the strings meet the wood and the showdown of a lifetime awaits. Email rockipediapodcast@gmail.com and let the battle begin.